Hi, and welcome to The Regulated Mother. I'm your host, Afshan Tafler, nervous system resilience coach and mother of a hypersensitive, high-needs child. If you're raising a differently wired kid with PDA, autism, OCD, ADHD, or big emotional needs, this is a space for you. Here we talk about what most people don't, how it really feels, how your nervous system responds, and how to find your way back to calm, courage, and connection, even on the hardest days. You're not alone. Let's begin. If you're parenting a PDA or high needs child, there's a feeling I know you've probably lived with for a long time. This constant sense that no matter how much you do for your child, it's never enough. You give more time, more patience, more flexibility, more of yourself than most parents are ever asked to give. And yet it still feels like you're falling short. Okay. And then it happens. A comment from a friend, a suggestion from a therapist, a subtle or not so subtle insinuation that if your child is still struggling, you must be doing something wrong or not doing enough. And in that moment, something drops inside you. The shame hits, and it hits deep. Before you know it, you're no longer present. You feel disconnected from your child, disconnected from yourself, and you want to disappear, maybe even give up. All of your effort suddenly means nothing in your own mind, even though realistically, you are doing more than most parents ever have to. And somehow you are still the hardest on yourself. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to help you understand why this shame spiral happens, why it isn't your fault, okay, and what actually helps you come out of it faster without blaming yourself or pushing harder. Okay, there are three key shifts that I want you to walk away with, not to give yourself a free pass, but because you deserve to stop living inside this shame spiral, okay? You deserve to understand what's actually happening in your nervous system to come out of that shame spiral faster and to hold a much truer and kinder truth that you are doing more than enough for your child, even if they still have challenges. Okay, so let's break this down together. Okay, so years ago, I was on a call with a therapist I had reached out to for support. I wanted help understanding how to support my son's attachment system, how to help safety and connection come online for a child who was struggling so deeply at the time. Okay. And at the point in the conversation, she made a comment. I don't even remember her exact words, to be honest, but I remember the feeling with crystal clarity. Okay. It was the subtle insinuation that maybe I needed to be there more for my son or do more for him. Okay. That perhaps I wasn't giving him enough of what he needed. Okay. And in that moment, my stomach dropped. This feeling was all too familiar. There were many times I felt this before with well-intentioned friends making comments insinuating I must be doing things wrong for my child to have these intense challenges. Okay, so if you're parenting a hypersensitive, high needs child, chances are that you have had a moment or perhaps many moments like this where one comment, one look, or one comparison collapses months or years of effort into a single painful conclusion. I'm not enough. Okay, and then the shame hits, right? The shame hits. Okay, so this comment came from this therapist, came after months of like me canceling work days to be available to my child, sitting through hours of nightly rages, functioning on chronic sleep deprivation, doing everything I knew how to do to create secure attachment, all while parenting a child whose severe OCD and PDA made it nearly impossible for him to receive care or closeness unless he could control most of my basic needs, even when I could go to the bathroom. Okay. And yet one comment was enough. My nervous system didn't hear nuance. A Okay. It didn't hear context. It didn't hear effort. It heard, you are failing and you are not enough. And I went into a shame spiral. For days afterward, I felt stuck. My nervous system wanted to hide, to disappear, to go away. I tried my best to still be there for my son, but inside I felt like one giant failure. Okay, so what made this spiral even harder was that it wasn't happening in isolation. Okay, at the time, my system was already under enormous strain. I was carrying so much shame about the moments when I did lose it, like the once a month rage that would surface when my son tried to control my most basic bodily needs. And even though these moments were rare compared to how much I did show up for him, they took up the most space in my mind. Can you relate? I'm sure you can. Okay. And then there was social media, right? The comparing, watching other parents seemingly calm, regulated, and handling it all better. And I compared myself relentlessly to a friend who had two neurotypical children, no major parenting challenges, no partner struggles, no health issues, and essentially smooth, supported life where she had time and space to work out daily and meet all of her own needs. Okay, I measured myself against people whose lives and children looked nothing like mine. And still I asked, why can't I be like that? Maybe if I was like her, then my son would be better. Okay, I honestly cringe now when I think of how hard I was on myself back then. So, why are we so hard on ourselves? Okay, looking back, the question that stayed with me wasn't just what happened, but why it affected me so deeply. Okay, so why did I fixate on the moments I became dysregulated so much more, or ignore the countless times that I actually showed up for my child, doing everything possible for him, or discount the extraordinary load that I was carrying compared to most people? Or compare myself only to those with far fewer challenges? Okay. Why did one comment outweigh months of devotion? The answer didn't lie in the moment. It lived much deeper. Okay. There is a lot of conditioning underneath this reaction that I was having that was really contributing to this shame spiral. Okay. Most of us don't parent, that we don't enter parenting with a neutral nervous system. We carry deep rooted conditioning that tells us our worth is tied to how much we do for others and how much we give. Okay, our worth is tied to how well our child is doing and how much we are doing for them. Okay, and being a good parent means self sacrifice without limit, and struggle means failure, and failure means we're doing something wrong or bad. Okay, and differences in our child mean that somehow we must be doing something wrong. And dysregulation means harm and imperfection, which is bad, right? Because only perfection is good. Okay. And then needing space means we are doing wrong, doing something wrong if we need space, or that we're being selfish. Okay. Many of us learned early on that love, safety, or belonging were conditional and earned by being good, calm, accommodating, pleasing others, or being perfect. Okay, so when parenting stretches us beyond capacity, as parenting a PDA or high needs child inevitably does, it doesn't just feel hard, it feels dangerous to our nervous system. It signals that something must be wrong for it to be this hard. Okay, that's a big one. Okay, if something is hard, our nervous system thinks that something must be wrong. Okay, and underneath that belief lives a much deeper belief that comes from conditioning as well, is that if something is wrong, then I must be wrong or bad or unworthy. Okay, and here's where we cue shame. Shame comes in and takes over. And shame here isn't just an emotion, right? It's a survival response. It's an attempt to make us better so we can feel safer again. But instead of protecting us, it often pulls us into a vortex of despair and unworthiness and isolation, where we feel increasingly alone and increasingly convinced that we are somehow failing. Okay. Now, another thing I want us to really understand here is in this shame trap is confusing effort with outcome, because a lot of us do this. Okay. One of the deepest shame traps that parents fall into is assuming that when our child's challenges feel intense and difficult, and the outcomes are hard and unpredictable or outside of our control, then it means that we somehow must be doing something wrong, rather than recognizing that we are navigating something that is genuinely complex and demanding. Okay, so why do we do this to ourselves? Okay. This is especially true when parenting a child with a sensitive, reactive, or neurodivergent nervous system, where outcomes often do not match the amount of effort being put in. Okay, so we unconsciously absorb beliefs like, if we were better, the outcomes would be easier. Or if we were more regulated, our child would be calmer. Okay, or if outcomes are hard, we must be doing something wrong. Okay, this is deep, and this is so, I feel like, deeply ingrained in so many of us. Okay. But what I want to say here is that parenting difficulty is not a measure of parental inadequacy. Okay. And challenging outcomes, okay, we put in effort, but we have challenging outcomes. Those challenging outcomes are not evidence of insufficient effort or insufficiency on our part. So just please take a moment to let this land, because it's so important. Okay. Your child's nervous system and ongoing challenges are not a reflection of how good you are as a parent. They're just not. They reflect nervous system sensitivities that are largely out of your control, okay, and not due to a lack of effort, care, or love on your part. Okay, but that's what a lot of people assume, right? And think of us. And from the outside, because just how we're all wired, that's how we're all conditioned. But instead of a measure of inadequacy, this is really a measure of complexity. And complexity often produces hard outcomes, even when extraordinary effort is being applied. Okay, so some children require vastly more regulation, attunement, flexibility, and nervous system capacity than others. And some family systems are navigating layers of trauma, generational trauma, health issues, financial stress, isolation, or lack of support that others simply are not. And yet we judge ourselves as if everyone is starting from the same place, as if effort should guarantee outcome. Okay. When we confuse effort with outcome, then shame thrives. Okay. The harder the outcomes, the worse we feel about ourselves. The more effort we give without seeing the outcomes we hope for, the more we discount or dismiss our own effort. And the more complex the situation, the more we internalize blame for outcomes we don't even have control over. Okay, but here is the truth we are rarely taught. Difficulty does not mean deficiency. Struggle does not mean failure. And effort does not guarantee ease or predictable outcomes. So your child's sensitive nervous system is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It reflects innate sensitivities and challenges that are outside your control. Okay. Not how much effort you're putting in and how much you care or how deeply you love. Okay. That is so important to take in. Okay. So let's just talk about what shame does to the nervous system. Okay. When shame takes over, the nervous system often moves into withdrawal, collapse, self-attack, and the urge to disappear. So pulling away from our children in these moments
I want to say that it's not a moral failure, even though we feel so bad for it, right? It's really a system overwhelmed and trying to protect itself. But instead of compassion, we often add negative meaning. Oh, this proves now I'm not enough because my system is automatically pulled away. This will damage my child now. I should be better by now, right? We're so hard on ourselves. Shame convinces us that we are alone in this and that everyone else is managing just fine, when in reality, many parents are quietly holding the shame fears behind closed doors. Okay. And then the shame spiral tightens its grip on you. Okay. So what is the shift? What is the shift to make here? Okay. This is the shift that changed everything, is to really see that coming back matters more than never leaving. Okay. So many parents feel so bad and judge themselves harshly for their nervous system going into dorsal vagal shutdown, into a shame spiral. And I want to say that one of the most profound shifts in my healing journey was the realization that it is far more important that we come back to connection than that we never go away. Okay. So most parents judge themselves harshly for moments of distance or numbness or dysregulation. Okay, we can shouldn't sit. We can sit in shame for days over the fact that we went away, you know? But the nervous system sometimes needs to go away, especially when there is no real break, no relief, and no space. And here is the greater truth that can be hard to take in. The nervous system chooses automatically on an unconscious level whether it drops into dorsal shutdown or moves into dysregulation. Okay, so this isn't deliberate, it isn't planned, and it isn't a conscious choice you're making. So instead of focusing on where our nervous system went automatically, because it's going to do what it's going to do, what truly shapes healing for us and for our children is what happens next. Okay, once we feel enough safety to begin coming out of this shame spiral, and we can finally feel like we're coming out of it, do we come back? Do we soften? Do we repair? Do we reconnect? Okay, human life is not about perfect presence all the time. It's not about being calm all the time. It's not about never losing it or never losing connection. It's more about always returning. Okay. So when I stopped asking, why did I go away? And started asking, can I come back with love in my heart again? Then everything shifted. I began practicing allowing that I get dysregulated sometimes, allowing that my nervous system often chooses before my mind does, and allowing that effort and growth matter more than perfection. And with that came a gentler question. Okay, can it all be okay? Can I allow all of it to be here without attaching good or bad to it? Okay, so I want to get into 3 shifts to hold when shame shows up. Okay, so these are not ways to fix yourself or think more positively. They are gentle shifts in perspective that help bring in clarity, compassion, and nervous system safety back online when shame starts to spiral. So, shift number 1, stop comparing yourself to a path you are not walking. Okay, can we just stop? Stop comparing ourselves to a path we're not walking. We cannot compare ourselves to others, especially those who are not living our path. Okay. We all carry different generational trauma that's passed down, different childhood experiences and childhood traumas, different nervous system capacities, different life stressors, supports and resources, financial stressors. Comparing yourself to people living objectively easier lives with fewer challenges or very different children is neither fair nor accurate. Okay, the shift here to make is from this feeling of I'm not good enough, or this belief that I'm not good enough, to instead, I'm doing the best I can in circumstances that require extraordinary effort and strength. And what if I'm stronger and doing better than I even realize? Okay. The shift is I'm doing the best I can in circumstances that require extraordinary effort and strength. And invite in this question and help orient your brain to see what if I am stronger and doing better than I realize. Okay. So that's what we want to step into more and more instead of this I'm not good enough. Okay. Shift number 2 to make when the shame spiral hits is to really help yourself understand that your nervous system is responding and not failing, right? So shifting from, okay, my nervous system is failing, I'm failing, and instead my nervous system is just responding what it's designed to do. Our nervous system is constantly scanning for safety and threat through unconscious neuroception. And when our nervous system like goes away, right, we shut down into the shame spiral or we become dysregulated. This is not a moral failure or a conscious choice. Okay, it is the body doing what it knows how to do to protect us in moments of overwhelm. Okay, nothing has gone wrong. So the shift here is really from I failed because I became dysregulated or disconnected. So instead of seeing you becoming disconnected and dysregulated as failure, shift to, oh, my nervous system did what it needed to do to survive this moment. And from here, with awareness, I can gently support myself in coming back. Okay. So, and that might take some time because we can't always force ourselves out of that dorsal collapse of shame. And it could take some time and really working on helping yourself feel safe enough to come out of it, right? So grace and giving yourself grace and compassion, they don't excuse harm, but they create the safety required for regulation, repair, and choice again. And that's really important. Okay. It helps you come back. Okay. So shift number 3 is what matters most is that you come back, right? So let's focus on that more. Okay. Not focusing so much on, oh, I had a rupture. Rupture is not failure. So perhaps we can stop putting so much focus on self-blame for the rupture. It is an inevitable part of being human, of being in relationship and living in a nervous system built for survival first. Okay. What builds resilience for us and for our children is not perfection, but repair. Okay. So the shift here is from this belief that I'm bad or not enough because there was rupture and therefore I should be ashamed for it. Okay. The shift is from that to instead, rupture is allowed, repair is powerful. What matters most is that I come back to connection again and again. Okay, so the relationship is always stronger than the storm that passed through. Okay, so those are the 3 shifts that I invite you to step into and to really cultivate within yourself when the shame spiral hits. Okay, so I want you to understand that you're not failing. You are responding again and again to circumstances that are genuinely complex, demanding, and largely outside of your control. Okay. When outcomes are hard, it is not because you are doing too little or not enough. When you get dysregulated, it is not because you are broken and failing. And when you need space, it is not because you don't care. It is because you are human. Parenting with a nervous system under conditions that ask more of you than most people will ever be asked to give. And each time you soften toward yourself, each time you release the meaning that something is wrong with you, and each time you find your way back with honesty, care, and love, you are doing something far more powerful than being perfect. You are teaching your child and your own nervous system that connection can stretch and bend without breaking, and that repair is real and meaningful and builds resilience. And that effort matters, okay, even when outcomes are hard. And that love doesn't disappear when things fall apart. It finds its way back. So this is what I invite you into. And if this resonated with you, please share, please comment, and let me know. I'd love to hear your comments, and please share it with other parents who may need to hear this message too. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to The Regulated Mother. If this episode helped you feel a little more seen, grounded, or hopeful, I'd love for you to share it with another mom who might need it too. And if you want more nervous system tools and support, head to my website, illuminateyou.ca, to grab my free ebook and video series. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing brave and meaningful work.